feel so honored to be part of the Wellness Your Way Festival because I feel like Kroger and Wellness Your Way are really making a point of helping us as a country get healthy and stay healthy by making better choices that are completely up to us. So I don't know if you know anything about me, but I wrote a cookbook called It's All Greek to Me, and it's basically 100 and almost 40 recipes from my families, from my dad's side of the family and my mom's side of the family, that are hundreds of years old. So I went back to Greece and I collected all these recipes from my family and I put them in a book, and I want to share them with everyone because not only are they delicious, but they're also really healthy. And I think it was last year that the medical community actually voted the Mediterranean diet the healthiest diet out there in the world. And for me, it wasn't a diet, it's just the way I ate. We always just ate really great food from our earth that you could pronounce, you know what I mean? Like you don't pick up the bag and you say, what is that? That was never in our food. When I was a kid, I didn't really like it that much because, you know, my mom wasn't making all the other stuff that the other moms were making that I really wanted. And I'd say, why don't you make this? And she said, because it's bad for you. It wasn't until years later that I realized she was right. And so now I want to share that with everybody else as well. So I'm going to show you guys how to make a 30-minute meal for your family, which is going to be affordable, delicious, and good for you. But most importantly, delicious, because if it's not delicious, it doesn't matter if it's good for you because nobody wants to eat it, and that's just the truth, right? Okay, so I'm going to start with making a pan-seared chicken or a grilled chicken. Now what you would need is, I need to get comfortable with this kitchen over here. What you need is a grill pan. If you don't have a grill pan, a fine nonstick pan is absolutely fine to use. I like to use, when I can, organic chicken. I like to use everything that is organic, and the good thing about Kroger and Ralph's, they have so many organic options right now that are priced like the other options as well. So you're not paying any more just to get something that's better for you, which is really important too, because people do want to eat healthy, but when you outprice them, then how are they supposed to? I never understood that. I was like, yeah, so you can only be organic and healthy if you're rich? That's not fair. So Kroger's done a really great job of making sure that it's an even playing field now. So I like to use Simple Truth chicken. I like to use the chicken breast with the rib meat in it as well. Sometimes I'll use the thigh if I'm making something else, but for this dish in particular, the chicken breast. So just a little bit of olive oil in a grill pan, and stand by. I need utensils. Oh, hang on, guys. I need a, oh, there we go. Oh, it's like my kitchen. Just open the drawer, right? I'm sorry if I sound a little nasally. I just got off a plane. I flew in from Los Angeles on the red eye, and I got here at 6 a.m., and I've been a little bit under the weather because I have a 4-year-old, and anyone out there who has children or has had children at 4 years old, you know they bring everything home to you. So that's kind of where I am right now. So what you do is you want to grill the chicken for about 6 minutes on each side. And a grill pan is really great because you get those beautiful marks across it. If you don't have the grill pan, it's fine. So you want a little bit of olive oil in there to just get it sizzling, and then put the chicken on there and just let it grill for about 6 minutes. Then in the meantime, oh my goodness, you know what I forgot to tell you to do? First of all, what you need to do is you need to marinate the chicken. So what you're gonna do to marinate the chicken, you are gonna mix together some olive oil, some lemon, some garlic, some oregano, and you're gonna mix that all together and put that in a plastic baggie. You're gonna put that in your refrigerator for about an hour or up to 6 or 7 hours. You really, when you're marinating something with lemon juice, especially chicken or fish, you want to be very careful because if you marinate it too long, it'll break the proteins down and then it'll start to get mealy. If you left the lemon out, it would be okay, but if the lemon's in there, don't do it overnight. I wouldn't recommend that. But halfway through the marinating process, you want to take it out and flip it over so it's marinated fully through if you have it in a Ziploc bag. And just because I've done this before, so I'm going to save you the mess, put it in a bowl too, because sometimes those plastic bags have holes in them and you go back and it's all over your refrigerator. What happened? So put it in a bag, you flip it over, then you're gonna take it out and you're gonna put it in your grill pan, 4 to 6 minutes, maybe 7 on each side, flip it. Now in the meantime, I also like to Serve it with a little bit of Greek olives, Kalamata olives, and capers. Now, here's a little trick to making your, do you guys like capers? Capers are very, you can go one way or the other, as are olives. They're very dividing. They divide our country. I think that's what's happening right now. Do you like capers or do you not like capers? Capers are really pungent and they're also very salty, as are olives. But people that don't like capers, I find like capers this way, where you flash fry them. So you take a little bit of olive oil, make sure this guy's hot, and turn this up, just like that. And you take the capers and you well, I'm gonna get it a little hotter. You really want the heat to be very hot when you do this, because that's how you get them to have crisp, sort of crispiness on the outside, but they also kind of are still juicy on the inside. They're phenomenal. I eat them as a snack. They're that good. So you just flash fry them really quickly and mix them around. Let's set them there for a minute. And that kind of changes the texture of it all. Now, here we go, some plates over here. Now this whole meal will come together, aside from the marinating, in 20 minutes. And it serves 4 people, which is really great. So what I like to do is serve it over a bed of any sort of greens, whatever kind of lettuce you like, or you can serve it with some spinach. You just put some greens on a plate, just like this. And you can, we have some olive oil here, and you can just sprinkle olive oil and lemon juice or vinegar. Red wine vinegar is what a lot of Greek recipes use. And also a big spice in Greece is obviously oregano. We use a lot of oregano. There's really great health properties in oregano. And just a little bit of salt. Now, as you can see, this is such a simple recipe. It's really simple. And that's one of the best things about Mediterranean cooking. They're just easy. You're not hiding behind sauces or this or that. They're easy to make. They're full of flavor. They're full of nutrients. And you're not going to spend a ton of money making this. But if you were to go to a restaurant and get this, they would charge you a lot of money. They'd just make the name a little fancier. As opposed to grilled chicken, they'd make it something French and charge you twice as much. Okay, so I don't know if you can see that, but these are really sizzling. You probably can't hear them. They're delicious. So this guy needs to be turned up a little bit. We'll just let those keep going. Now, over here, I have the chicken, which has come out. It's absolutely beautiful. Again, it's up to you whether you want to make it more tangy with the lemon or less, or whether you'd rather have more olive oil. You can change up the spices. This just happens to be the traditional way that my mom always made it. So I'm going to use this one so there's no cross-contamination there. I sliced the chicken here, but you could use just a regular chicken breast and put it on top, however you choose to do it. As a matter of fact, I think I'm going to use the full chicken breast, if I can get it. This is a thick one. Just like that. And then toss a few of these Greek Kalamata olives on top. This is great, a great source of protein. There you go. And just these little capers. Now, if you wanted to do this in your oven, you could do it in your oven as well. If you didn't want to do it on the stovetop, you could do the same exact thing. Just put it in a baking dish in a Pyrex, and then you could put the capers and the olives on top and put it in and let all those juices come together. Obviously, the baking time would be different. You'd probably want to turn it up to 350 or 375, depending on, again, the size of the chicken breast. Anywhere from 35 to 40 minutes. You just really want to check it and really use a thermometer. I'd say with any other meat out there right now, it's not that big of a deal, but when you're cooking chicken, it's super important that it's at least at 165 when you get it in because that could be a real issue. Nobody wants salmonella. So there, so easy. This came together virtually here on the stage. Had I had the stove on, the chicken would be ready now, but it was not. Easy, simple, delicious. I wish I could feed this to you, but they told me I can't. So I'm just gonna put this over here. Hopefully that's one of the recipes that you will enjoy with your family, as I have my entire life. And again, that is so filling and yet so low calorie. And there's not tons of fat in it. It's not gonna spike your insulin levels, low cholesterol, I mean, I think we all know that the cleaner we can eat these days, the better it is for all of us. You know, I think what this festival is about, a lot of what it's about is trying to take control of our own health. And I think the first way that we can all take control of our own health is by being in control of what we put in our bodies and what we put on our bodies. And it starts there. That's where it really starts, because the more we are aware of that, and I think the more we're becoming aware of that really as a country, we will have less disease. We will be taking less medications as we get older. People will be living longer, healthier, happier lives. I think that's the end goal, isn't it? I mean, we all just want to live as long as we can, as healthy as we can. And hopefully things like this will help us all move in that direction, which is taking me to my next recipe I'm going to make. This one, just go with me for a minute. You guys are going to go, what? How could that possibly be delicious? I promise you, it's so good. Who likes cabbage? Probably not too many. Okay. So we have about 4 or 5 people who likes carrots. All right, more carrot lovers than cabbage. I promise you, when my mom tried to give me this when I was younger, I thought, this is disgusting, I'm not gonna eat it. I'm wrong. It's phenomenal, and it happens to be one of my favorite things to eat now, my go-to. And it's one of my favorite recipes in the book. Now, I don't know if she told you, I feel so bad. I was supposed to do a book signing. We had all these wonderful books for you guys for free, and unfortunately, the publisher didn't send them out in time. So someone in Cincinnati will have books on Tuesday, but not today. So I'm sorry for that, but we do have some pictures to sign. Oh, it's such a bummer, because I would have loved to show you these recipes in there so you could go home and make them. I mean, maybe I can write them out on a note card for you or something, because it's really good. Okay, so it starts with cabbage. Again, you know, you're probably thinking cabbage isn't exactly my go-to vegetable, but there's a reason it should be. Cabbage is so good for you. Do you know that cabbage has just as much vitamin C as an orange? I know, that's crazy, right? Also, it has vitamin K, which is great for your skin. It has magnesium, potassium. It is great for your blood. It actually lowers blood pressure. Now, carrots. Carrots, if you eat carrots, you are 68% less likely to have a stroke. What? And that's not me. Someone at Harvard did that study. I was even blown away when I saw it. Just by eating a carrot, you're 68% more likely to not have a stroke. I mean, I'm happy to come give you some carrots to make us all healthier. And because it does something, it opens up your the blood vessels, so it allows your blood to flow more evenly. Anyhow, so I'm going to take these 2 really amazing super vegetables and put them together and make them fantastic. All you do is you take a carrot and you take a box grater, and you just grate the carrot. Same thing with a big head of cabbage. Then you mix these together. Again, nothing that looks really too exciting, but it is, because what happens is when you mix this with this delicious dressing, which is a Lavo lemon dressing, it's a traditional Greek dressing, it changes everything. Now, you want to make sure that this is very well salted. It's actually a beautiful dish. This bowl's a little big and kind of clunky, but where's our salt? Okay, you want to make sure it's very well salted, and you want to make sure it's very cold, because when it's cold and crisp, it gives it just a nicer crunch. If the cabbage is wilted and the carrots are wilted, it's not going to work. You really want that crunchiness. Okay, so some olive oil and some lemon, or olive oil and red wine vinegar. Greeks always use red wine vinegar. And oregano. I don't know if I have, hang on just a second. Are there any bowls in here? I'll do this. Do we have a whisk? A whisk? The fork? A fork will do. If you don't have a whisk, use a fork. So, some really good quality olive oil, some lemon, oregano, some garlic. You can leave the garlic out because I know, and again, salt. I'll put some salt in here too. And if you don't want lemon juice, use red wine vinegar. A lot of times, garlic is very good for a lot of people. You know, people talk about the health benefits of garlic, but it can also be very upsetting to people that have gut issues. Now, do any of you guys have problems with garlic? If you eat garlic, you sometimes you don't burp. Because garlic can really do that to people, as can onions. Do you ever have any problems with onions after you eat onions? No? Gosh, you guys are lucky. I have major garlic and onion issues, and I love them. They just don't love me. But what I have found is that if I eat garlic that has been cooked or onions that have been cooked, they don't affect me the same. And a doctor told me that's because you're cooking out the acidity and the specific enzyme in the onion and the garlic that actually upset your stomach. And there's all these, you know, all these studies now and all this talk about gut health. I mean, I feel like we've never talked so much about our guts in our lives. All we talk about is our guts now. Do you remember when you were little, you'd say, I hate your guts. Well, now I love your guts. And you should love your gut too. Your gut is your second brain, is what doctors are saying these days, which makes sense because what goes into your body then affects what is up here, it affects your skin, it affects everything about us. So a lot of what is happening in our stomachs that we're not even aware of is actually causing so many other problems, if not all of them, you know, even down to the way we think. So making sure that you're putting the right nutrients in your body is super, super important. And I'm not saying you have to eat, you know, I'm not saying be vegan, clearly. I'm not saying, oh my gosh, don't eat sugar, oh, it's the enemy. I'm not saying don't eat ice cream. No, I want, listen, you only live once. I want to be happy. I want to eat and have a good time. But you have to be mindful about what goes in your body. If you're going to do that, do it, sure, in moderation. But also make sure that you're supplementing your body with, like I say to my daughter who's 4, growing food. Now, most of us don't need to grow any bigger, but I say to her, you need to have your growing food if you want to have your ice cream, because it's super important to make sure that we stay healthy, that we are healthy and we stay that way. And this, it's not fair. It's not fair for me to make this and not let them eat it. I know, I'm looking at my friend who's my producer back there, and he told me I can't feed you. It's cabbage and carrots. No one's going to believe me. It's delicious. It's really good. All I'm saying is give carrots and cabbage a chance. If I had the book here, you would see. So go home today or whenever you guys go home and just try it for me. Make sure the cabbage is really crispy and the carrot so quick. Olive oil, lemon, salt. You don't have to put the pepper in there if you don't want. Salt, oregano, mixed together, or red wine, okay? You can put garlic in there or not, up to you. Make sure the cabbage and the carrots are cold. Drizzle it over there, make sure it's very salted. You will not believe how good it is and how good for you it is. I'm practically saving your lives with this recipe. 68% of you will be less likely to have a stroke by eating this recipe. So that's another one that I really love. It's a go-to that I have all the time. It's in the fridge and I can just grab it and go. Now, another thing that my mom always used to make that's in the cookbook that I really love is just a simple pasta. You know, Greek food is all about simplicity, about what's in season. Because in Greece, you eat what is seasonal. They never, when we were actually doing the cookbook, we were trying to find the cabbage to take a picture of it when we were in Greece, because I wanted the book to be very authentic. So, you know, the publisher said, oh, you can do it here in America, and we'll just take pictures in a studio. And I said, I'm not doing that. I said, if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it right, and I'm not gonna lie to people. I'm gonna go there, we're gonna do it correctly. I'm not just doing a cookbook just to do a Greek cookbook. I'm doing it because I really want people to understand how great this food is, so we're gonna do it right. So when we're in Greece trying to get the cabbage, the farmers wouldn't sell it to us. And remember Peter? And I kept saying, well, just give us a head of cabbage. And they said, no. We're like, why? They said, because it's not good. I won't give you the bad cabbage. Like, why is the cabbage not good? Because there hadn't been a frost. So until the first frost occurs, they won't sell the cabbage because it's not in season. So they really do eat seasonally, which is also another very important part of staying healthy, because that's when your vegetables are the most nutrient-based and nutrient-rich. So anyway, again, Greeks eat very, very basic, very clean. So one of the dishes my mom made in the cookbook is just a basic pasta. I've now changed it to use whole wheat pasta. If you don't like whole wheat pasta, go back to regular pasta, it's fine. So it was pretty much a peasant dish. It's what they ate when they had no money in Greece. But it has turned out to be a really amazing dish. Just like a lot of dishes in Italy, like a lot of the pasta dishes, they ate them because they were a poor country. What were they supposed to do, you know? So what you do is you prepare the pasta, however way you like to prepare it. I like to prepare my pasta 2 minutes less than what the package says, because I like it a little chewy. If you don't, feel free to prepare it how you want. But what is most important when you're preparing your pasta, if you want it to be really delicious, so simple. This is one of the easiest things you can do. Make sure the water that you're making your pasta in is as salty as the sea. Do not salt after. It will never happen. It's not gonna work. You want that to soak into your noodle. So that water needs to be like ocean water, and your pasta will be amazing. So then you put a little bit of olive oil in there so it doesn't stick together, and then you're gonna drain it and set it aside, which we've done here. So I'll just put that right there. I'm gonna move all these things. Thank you guys for preparing all these things for me in the back. They did a good job by placing these in all the little bowls and stuff. Then, my mom would make this really wonderful cream sauce that really wasn't a cream sauce. It was a major fake out back then. Like, she always knew ahead of time. She was way ahead of the curve. She would use Greek yogurt, but it tasted like you were having like a penne alla vodka or something, like a really substantial cream sauce. And it started with just some, oh, that is heavy. Let me move this out of the way. Just some olive oil to saute some onions. You want to get you chop your onions pretty finely like this, and you want to get them translucent. Just want to saute them just a little bit to bring out that natural sweetness of the onion, because onions are quite sweet. When you start to, if you ever eat grilled onions, how sweet they are versus a raw onion, how it can be very pungent and sort of aggressive. Sweet, but when you start to cook them, all the beautiful sweet sugars come out. So you want to cook those down until they're translucent, and then add some garlic. Now, another key to cooking garlic, you don't want to add your garlic first. When you're cooking, make sure you add your garlic after whatever you've already added needs to saute down, because you'll burn the garlic. And if you burn your garlic, your recipe's done. Just throw it away, because you can't hide it. I've tried so many times. And I tried to convince other people, no, it's not burnt. They're like, oh, it's burnt. This does not taste good. It won't taste good. Just throw it away. Okay, so then you want to get your garlic in there. After you saute the onions about 7 minutes, your garlic in there about 2 to 3 minutes, but make sure you stay over it so it doesn't get burned. It can get, you can brown it, just don't burn it. So once you get that going, put some salt in there as well. Again, oregano, if you want. You don't have to have any oregano. It's just the go-to Greek spice. It's just up to you. It's very good for your blood levels and all kinds of things. Oregano is amazing. It's amazing spice. So once you have that going and you have your pasta over here, here's where the delicious part of this comes in. You'll take this off the heat, even though we haven't sauteed it long enough, but that's okay. You get the idea. We'll take that off the heat, and you add in, I wish I had a little hot plate here. Is this gonna burn? If it does, I'll buy you another one, I apologize. All right, there you go. And I'm using today just Simple Truth non-fat Greek yogurt. Greek yogurt is so good for you. It's full of probiotics, it's full of calcium and protein, so much protein in this. Honestly, if there's one thing you could do for yourself, just eat a little bit of Greek yogurt a day with honey, because the healing properties of honey are also out of this world. So any kind of honey, just eat some honey and some Greek yogurt a little bit every day. And again, vinegar, red wine vinegar or lemon juice is so good for you. Okay, so just a little dollop of this turns into what becomes a delicious cream sauce. So you put this in here and you mix it around, and it starts to look like a really beautiful thickened pasta cream sauce. Another trick when you're making pasta, save some of the water that you've boiled the pasta in, because that starchy water helps with the creaminess of any sort of sauce you're making. It really gives it that extra sort of oomph. And where some people's pasta is okay and then other people's pasta is phenomenal, it really comes down just to starch water. It's nothing. There's so many simple tricks that chefs around the country use that they don't tell you. And thankfully on my show Home and Family, I have like 5-star chefs come on. Thank you. I have them come on the show all the time. So I know all their secrets now. So they've told me, so now I can tell you. So then you just mix the pasta in like this, and then, oh boy, am I putting too much in there? We'll be okay. And then if you want to, you can put that back on the stove top and sort of toss it together and make it all nice and creamy until it's all blended wonderfully. Now what I would recommend is, if you're gonna make this sauce for the pasta and you wanna be able to still eat the pasta the next day and the day after, I would prepare the yogurt sauce the day of. Like, you could put this in a Tupperware and put it in the fridge, but day of, do this again, because it's gonna just taste much better. Just like that. And another little tip my mom used to do is she would make her own sort of, they're not really croutons. She would take day-old bread And she'd slice it up. I'm gonna plate this for you and show you. She would slice it up. Now you could add a little bit of Parmesan cheese, or you can add the Parmesan cheese while you're mixing in the yogurt as well, either way. So she would slice up some day-old bread, and she would put it on a sheet pan like we had over here, and she would cover it with olive oil, salt, oregano, and sometimes a little bit of garlic powder. Stand by. There you go. A little bit of garlic powder, and she would put it in the oven at about 400 degrees for about 10 minutes, 10 to 12 minutes. You really have to watch it. You know your oven. And the most delicious little things would come out that weren't really croutons, because they're crunchy on the outside, but because the olive oil has seeped in and you haven't cooked them long enough to dry them out, they're chewy on the inside. So crunchy on the outside and chewy on the inside, and they're phenomenal. Whoever made these did a good job. They're just like my mom's. Thank you. They're so good. And so it's almost like you have, you know, a delicious piece of garlic bread that's on top of your pasta. It is so phenomenal, so simple, so easy to make, and affordable. What is this? Greek yogurt, pasta, and an onion, and a piece of bread. And you basically have a gourmet meal. And that beautiful chicken, the same thing. It's really so easy to make all these dishes. And they're so flavorful. And they're so good for you because, you know, just like I said, if it's not good for you, I mean, if it doesn't taste good, you can only eat things that are healthy for you for so long that aren't good for you. Do you know what I mean? Like people, if they try to start diets, they say, oh, I'm gonna only eat this. It's not gonna work. It's never gonna work. It has to be moderation. It has to be things that really make you feel good and that taste good and that satiate you, or you're just gonna fall right back into your old ways. That's just how we are. It's human nature. Oh! So if you can, if I don't kill myself up here, if you can manage to figure out a way to make food that is good for you and your family, that's delicious and keeps you happy and healthy, then, you know, that's the way to go. Do you guys have any questions? I'm sorry, it's okay. Wait a minute, I think we have a microphone. Do we have a microphone? Yeah, stand by just a second. Oh my God, I can't hear. Sorry. This ear's clogged up from flying.
I'm talking about the salad, the
Yeah, with the cabbage, yeah.
For those of us that shouldn't have much salt, why do you have to put salt in it?
You don't have to. I do it because I like that it gives it more of a, it gives it a brightness. If you're not gonna put the salt, put more lemon juice.
Okay.
It just brightens it, you know what I mean? You need a little kick because otherwise it is, I mean, you know, there's only so much you can do to polish a cabbage and a carrot.
Would basil help at all?
Sure.
Yeah.
You could do that. That would be amazing.
Okay.
You could use salt substitutes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Anybody else have any questions?
Okay, so I love the combination of
the cabbage and carrot?
carrots.
Oh!
I eat it all the time. So
Thank you. That makes me so happy. By the way, it's a detoxifier.
Yeah.
Do you remember that crazy cabbage soup diet that everybody was doing? Oh my gosh, I'm going to be so skinny. Anyway, but it's a huge detoxifier. It's great for your skin.
yeah, I make a slaw every couple of weeks.
Oh my God, I love it.
But how long do you let it marinate? To like let the flavors? Can you eat it right away? Do you need to let it
You
sit
can
for
eat
an
it right
hour?
away, but I will tell you this, if you leave it in the refrigerator for like 2 hours, it's even better.
Okay.
And even the next day where I'd leave it, I'd go like, oh, it's so good. And it really is truly the olive oil, the vinegar, or the lemon, and all the spices coming together. And it's the most important, like I said, the crispness of the vegetable.
Right. Perfect. Thank you.
Oh, I'm so glad. Your skin is beautiful. It's because of the cabbage. Anyone else have any questions? I'm sorry I don't have books. I know. Sorry? Oh, you know what? Give me your address. We'll make them send you the book. I mean, who's going to get those books? They're going to be here somewhere. We'll take your address. I think there are pictures, though. They said there are pictures for me to sign, which isn't as good as the book. Sorry. So is there anything else you guys want to know? Any questions, I'll answer them. It doesn't have to be about the food. No? You guys are all good? You guys cook? You do? Oh, hold on a minute. Do we have the mic? Who's got the microphone? Thank you.
I watch your show every day.
Oh,
You're my
thank
favorite
you.
person.
Thank you.
It's so nice how you guys rallied for Cameron.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Yeah, I don't know if you guys watch our show Home and Family, but my co-host was surprisingly diagnosed with kidney cancer. We work crazy hours around the clock, and basically, unfortunately, none of us have a lot of time to actually go to our doctor's appointments, and things fall through the cracks. But this is a perfect example of why they shouldn't. Cameron Matheson, who's my co-host, is honestly the healthiest person I know. Not a joke. It becomes like a joke on the show. I'm like, oh, again, bone broth. All he talks about is his healthy this and that, and drink MCT oil and blah, blah. And I'm like, oh my, I don't even know what you're saying, but okay, if you're telling me to do it, I'm gonna do it because you're so healthy, right? So every year we have a 3-week vacation over the summer, but to get to that 3-week vacation, we actually have to work every weekend. So is it really a vacation? I'm like, well, not really, because we're actually working. So we work every weekend, and we do extra shows after the show, so we can make sure that you guys have, live shows when we're gone. The day that we went on vacation, I left to go to Greece to see my family, and Cameron went to his first doctor's appointment that he had neglected for about 1.5 years. And he kept saying, something's wrong with my stomach. I don't know, something's wrong with my stomach. And he said to them, will you please do a CAT scan? Because the doctor said, you're fine, you're fine. He said, no, I'm telling you something's wrong. So again, perfect example of you are your best advocate. Just because they're doctors and they have a degree, they don't know your body. They don't know what you're feeling. You know what I mean? So insist. If they tell you no, insist. And I know insurance companies don't always pay for things, but honestly, it's better to pay it out of your pocket no matter what it's going to cost, because it's going to keep you alive, which is what ended up happening. So he said, I want a CAT scan. I want a full CAT scan. The doctor came back and said, I'm sorry, I don't know what to tell you, and I'm incredibly surprised at the findings because I thought you were fine, but you have kidney cancer. I mean, which was a huge wake-up call to all of us, given you've never seen somebody who works out more, who doesn't eat sugar, who is, so on top of everything, and he knows he can name every muscle and every bone in his body, which that's not even a joke, that's for real. I mean, he'll talk about health incessantly to you. And if it can happen to him, it can happen to any of us. Is it environmental? Who knows? But the best thing we could do is try our best to make sure that what goes inside of our bodies and what's on our bodies is at least as organic and as clean and as healthy as possible. So thankfully, as fate would have it, the best surgeon for this type of cancer was at UCLA Medical Center in Los Angeles. The best surgeon in the world. Like when we say those kinds of things, no, legitimately in the world, where most doctors have done about 700 of these surgeries, this doctor had done 7,000. So when Cameron went in and said, this is the deal, he said, no, don't worry, I'm not worried. So that made us all feel a lot better. But then again, there was always the issue of when you get in there, what do you see? Because we're seeing it here, but once I get inside with all the cameras, then what? So it was very, we were all like this. He came out. We didn't think he was going to have to lose any of his kidney, but he did. They took 20% of his kidney, which is a little bit more difficult of a recovery, but he is such a Superman. 2 weeks later, he was back at work. Like it was nothing. I'm like, you are missing part of your organ. And he's like, no, I'm fine, let's go. I mean, he is amazing. But again, the doctor said if it wasn't for him being so healthy, he wouldn't have been able to recover that quickly. So we all have a little something to learn from Mr. Cameron Matheson and his obsession with bone broth. I do, but that's only because, again, like the Greeks did it for years. Like my mom, that's just stock. They'd use the chicken bones, and anyone who's from any ethnic background, they would use all the bones. They use every part of everything they were preparing, Like they'll use every part of the vegetable, they use every part of the animal. So it's like ancient cultures did all that because they don't like waste. And I think that's kind of where we're headed these days, which is good. You know what I mean? We should all start to get back to that old way of life because it seemed to be healthier. There's a place in Greece called Ikaria. It's an island in Greece, and they've named it the place where people forget to die. because people there live to be 120 years old and healthy. Not 120 and hunched over and canes, like 120 and pretty, you know, like pretty with it and still going out, and they can't quite figure out what's going on. They think it has to do something with the soil, like how densely rich it is, or the fact that there's very little stress there as well. And it happens to be in a blue zone. So, you know, there's something to just kind of, you know, letting go and just being like, I know there's so much going on. I mean, even here, there's sensory overload all the time, but getting back to just, and the basics and the calmness of life. I think we lose a lot of that in this day and age, unfortunately. But it's super important for your health. Hi.
So, what was one of the things that you learned that you were surprised about while making your cookbook?
Oh my gosh.
You weren't
Okay.
expecting?
Thank you. Thank you.
The question was, when doing the cookbook, what were some of the things that you learned that you weren't expecting?
What are some of the things I learned? I'll tell you what, it was, thank you, that is a great question. And that, the cookbook was a labor of love, and probably, and we're doing a second one, by the way. So I'm very excited about that, but it's not gonna be easy because it's one of the most difficult things to do a cookbook. Because when you're doing any other kind of book, it's, you know, it's whatever. But when you're doing a cookbook, you're giving someone instructions on how to make something, and you have to make it easy enough that they're gonna wanna do it. Because there's nothing more overwhelming than opening a cookbook and saying, oh my gosh, all these, so many ingredients, what do I do, blah, blah, blah. Then you're already done. The person's gonna shut the cookbook, they're not doing it again, they're never eating your food. So the most important thing for me when I was doing the cookbook, Peter is around here somewhere, he's my book partner, we tested every recipe at least 5 to 6 times. Now, I know that sounds crazy, why am I gonna test a recipe that's 100 years old that was my grandmother's or my great-grandmother's? Because the way that they did it back then was a lot different than the way we do it now. Like my grandmother, when I take the recipes, it said in the recipe, eyeball it. I said, I can't put that in a cookbook. I'd be, how much salt? Eyeball it. I'm like, no, yeah, you don't say I don't know. And I said, well, how do I know? Like, how long do they have to cook it for in the oven? Until it's done. I'm like, again, I can't write until it's done in a cookbook. And literally my mom said, if they don't know when it's done, they shouldn't be cooking. Wrong. So a lot of it was going back and actually sitting there and watching and being like, okay, and taking it out and be like, oh, no, that's not done. Put it back in. But the most important thing, again, the most difficult thing, the most surprising thing was how when you write something down, you yourself write it down, you think it makes sense, and then you say, I'd write it down, I'd give it to my best friend, I'd say, here, go home, don't call me, try to make this recipe with what I wrote. Don't call me, just try to make it. And then she would do it and she'd say, I got caught here, that's weird, you have to change it. Because it was super important that just because I'm looking at it doesn't mean you're gonna look at it the same way. So we did that with a few different people until we got it to a place that was so simple that, I mean, anybody could do it. If you can read, you can do it. But if you're planning on doing a cookbook, I would highly suggest you do that. And it was a year and a half of, I felt like I gave birth to another child. It was honestly, when it was done, I'm like, oh, thank God. I mean, it was hard, but it's worth it now because I look back and it wasn't, it wasn't me working for a television station. It wasn't me working for a show. This is my family. That's as real as you're ever gonna get with me. I mean, that is my family stories, all of it, the good, the bad, the ugly. There was no hair and makeup for that book. I mean, I was running around, I looked crazy. I don't care, I loved it. It was so fun. It was really fun. Any other questions? Oh, I think that's it. Well, I'm gonna sign some pictures, I think, for you guys if you want pictures, or we could take some selfies. And then a little bit later, are we doing the cooking or the mindfulness eating here? Oh, it's right here? Perfect. So in a few minutes, we're gonna do a panel with Red Fu. He was from LMFAO, he's awesome. Oh, at 5 o'clock? Okay, and a few other really great people that are in the wellness space. An executive from Kroger and a girl who does a lot of stuff for Shape Magazine and a trainer. And we're gonna talk about how mindful eating is super important. A lot of stuff I said here, but they also have their own journey with food and health. And it's gonna be pretty interesting. So if you guys wanna come out and watch that and ask whatever questions you want, and when we do that, I'm gonna just tell you this, if you do come back, Don't feel like you have to have your questions at the end. If you have questions, which will be good for the conversation, we'll have somebody in the audience. And when you feel like you want to say something, just raise your hand and we'll come around and talk to you, okay? Thank you for coming, you guys.